Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your time zone, and welcome back to Moral Compass 101. My name is Nelson Mwangi, and today we shall be dealing with the effects of identity crisis. On our last video, we profoundly talked about identity crisis, and before then, I will please request you to comment so that we can interact. Subscribe to get edified, like and comment to disseminate knowledge. And in our last video, we said that identity crisis is that period or the state of uncertainty about your sense of self that's akin to your lack of defined objective reason of your existence. And in today's topic, we shall deal with the three adverse effects of identity crisis, because identity crisis is a transitional period, or it's supposed to be a temporary transitional period between you knowing you living your childhood and getting to your adulthood. And that's why times without number it kicks in during adolescence. It's an intervening period which you're not supposed to dwell with throughout your life, but unfortunately it has become a global menace, because just like we saw last time that 85% of the world population are still going through identity crisis. So, while finding purpose is a personal responsibility that contributes to self-identity and the defined objective reason of your existence, lack of purpose is a leading self-inflicted problem in humanity. 85% of people going through identity crisis, that's not a small number. So, and just like we talk about self-identity, the word self there means that it's your personal objective. It's yours to find. Your purpose is yours to find. Your identity is yours to find. This is something that you cannot delegate to any other person. It's your responsibility. And times without number of defined responsibility is that thing that you cannot delegate to someone. In your absentia, nobody can do it. Vis-a-vis a duty, which is something that you can delegate to someone, responsibility can never ever be delegated. So, in that aspect, I came up with a quote sometimes back, and I like doing these quotes because they times without number support my claims of whatever I teach. So this quote was going like this: the greatest price you should be willing to pay for your greatness is people's contrary opinion, because your greatness is your sole responsibility. So if somebody has a contrary opinion to it, you don't have a choice. And that's why I say be yourself, because everyone else is taken. So while identity crisis is somewhat an avoidable occurrence, because just like we said, it's an intervening intrinsic developmental period, settling down in the identity crisis inhibits you from the divine ability that you have of finding your purpose. And why do I call it a defined ability? Because when we started the topic at the purpose, we said that in Jeremiah chapter number 33 and verses 3, God dares you to call him. And at the end of that scripture, it says, so that he can fulfill your unexpected end. That expected end, we said, it's your purpose. That's why I'm talking about a defined objective reason of your existence. And when you don't fight that, when you don't gear up into finding your purpose, you dwell in identity crisis, and that will only subject you to the bare minimum about humanity. And the bare minimum about humanity are just the primary needs of humanity, or of human beings, that are, food, shelter, and clothing. And unfortunately, so many people have settled for the bare minimum in their lives, and we said settling for the bare minimum will rob you the chance to be celebrated in your present generation, and will also rob the future generation the aspect of celebrating your legacy that you shall have left behind. That's why you should refuse to settle for the bare minimum. So, which are these effects of identity crisis? In my soul searching, or in my moments of cognitive thinking and deep thinking, I came up with three effects of identity crisis, which I named one, the depressing effect. Number one is a depressing effect. Number two is the entitlement effect. And number three is the manipulative or the manipulating effect. So we shall tackle this one profoundly. Number one, which is the depressing effect, brings or contrives hopelessness and helplessness in your life. So while helplessness and hopelessness are self-explanatory, they are occurrences that depress your sense of self, where a feeling of worthlessness kicks in. It's during this state of helplessness and hopelessness that most people decide to seek solace through other bad means, like the use of drugs and alcohol and the abuse thereof. So in the state of your hopelessness and helplessness, a greater majority of people will set forth an aspect of using drugs and alcohol. And in this scenario, they shall have made their situations of identity crisis worse than they are supposed to be. So unfortunately, in the wake of seeking solace, they are hooked up to substance use and abuse, and subsequently, they become addicts. So when you're running away from your situation of identity crisis, please don't escape to the use of drugs or alcohol and misuse of them and abuse of them thereof, which will subject you to become an addict. This occurrence substantiates my claim that identity crisis is the leading undocumented cause of depression. So when you're depressed, because so many people who run into these issues of use and abuse of alcohol, drugs, and other substances are running away from that state of hopelessness, the depressing situations of hopelessness and helplessness. And that's why in your seek of stories, it's always good to seek advice rather than to seek solace from drugs and alcohol, because you shall be worsening your situation of identity crisis. Our number two effect of identity crisis is a sense of entitlement. Unfortunately, this is a stimulating effect that's akin to a grandiose ego that demands entitlement. While our first effect was a depressing effect, an entitlement sense of self is a stimulant kind of effect. And that does not say it is positive. No, it is not. Because a sense of entitlement is a key factor when it comes to somebody being a narcissistic. So this effect of identity crisis by the name entitlement can usher you in to a personality disorder that's called narcissism. Because narcissistic people, one of the personalities they pose is that personality of entitlement. A sense of entitlement. Okay, while I'm not sure that poor parenting can contrive to a sense of entitlement, whereby some parents, will just spoil their children with whatever they need, whatever they demand. In some people, low self-esteem, of course, when you go through identity crisis, one of the things that will be low in you is just self-esteem. So in some individuals, low self-esteem begs to be validated or demands to be validated, hence a sense of entitlement. With a low self-esteem, it can do either. It can either depress you or stimulate you to whereby you have this fake kind of self-esteem, raw self-esteem that demands to be validated. You don't feel okay, you are not yourself until you are validated. And in this, in the aspect or in the struggle of getting validation, entitlement kicks in. Unfortunately, a sense of entitlement sometimes goes beyond validation to demanding things that you have not earned. In its full manifestation, a sense of entitlement makes someone hold unrealistic expectations. So I think that's so much self-explanatory. By demanding opportunities without merit, possessions without paying, or rewards without accomplishment. While a mindset of entitlement is a core trait of narcissism, it's also a mentality that has contributed to instigate massive corruption, malfeasance, theft, robbery without any hope of obliterating these crimes. Let me explain that. Because we think that those people who commit these crimes, either massive corruption, malfeasance, theft, looting, and all those other things, are in a way normal in their thinking. No, sometimes they are not, or in most cases they are not, because just like we said, low self-esteem that is brought in or that is contrived, that starts from identity crisis, can trigger a sense of entitlement. And this self-entitlement, one of the things that it can do is to think that the world owes you something, that life owes you something. And when you have that mentality of entitlement, then you shall start being a corrupt person. You shall start stealing people's possessions. You start robbing people of their possessions. all in the sense of entitlement that was brought in through your identity crisis and the raw self-esteem that's tied to it. Unlike our first scenario, where persons with hopelessness and helplessness will turn into drug use and use of alcohol and substances, persons with entitlement mindset will inflict abuse on other people through robbing them, stealing from them, being corrupt, exploiting them for their personal gain. While somewhat while somewhat comprehensible, while it's somewhat comprehensible that identity crisis can bring depression, doubling up as an undocumented cause of entitlement is a venture that so many, it's a venture that has not been exploited, it has not been explored, sorry. Yes, we know that depression is tied to other things, but we don't know. We have not walked the journey. These are uncharted waters that identity crisis can lead to a sense of entitlement. It's a venture that so many psychotherapists have not gone through. And that's why we have people who are entitled, but we only relate this aspect to the upbringing where maybe they were spoiled of choice by the parenting aspect during their childhood. That is one phase of it. But the second phase of it is lack of identity, is that trajectory that they are walking on of identity crisis that has triggered a sense of entitlement because they don't know who they are, because they think that the world owes them something. That venture has brought all these identity crises. That are akin to robbery, looting, corruption, and the like. And this brings us to our third effect of identity crisis, namely manipulation. When you perceive that the world owes you something, your perception that the world owes you something will trigger a sense of manipulation in your brain. So, while we cannot deny that identity crisis is an inherent, transitional, or an intervening period in humanity, settling in it has brought up rise of mediocrity and hence subjected so many people into manipulation. The first group was triggered into depression that contrives a sense of hopelessness and helplessness. The second group was triggered to stimulation that contrives a sense of entitlement. And now, the third aspect brings together the two groups, the depressed group, the stimulated group that are going through a sense of entitlement. They merge together, or they come together in the third category, or in the third effect of self-identity, which is manipulation. How so, you ask? Let me explain. In manipulation, we find the two clusters or the two groups of people, the manipulator and the manipulated. And remember, in the words of the 32nd First Lady of the United States, Madam Eleanor Roosevelt, she said something in relation with this quote that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Now, the first group or the first cluster of people, the depressed, the hopelessness and the helpless people, in that state of affairs of their depressed state, they have allowed the second class, which are the cluster of entitled people, to manipulate them, in the sense that, they have decided to settle for mediocrity. So, in a true depiction of self-identity, there is an African proverb that says that no matter the economy of the jungle, the lion will never eat grass. No matter the economy of the jungle, the lion will never eat grass. This is a principle that the lion have stood by since times immemorial, because the lion knows its identity, and its identity as a carnivore, as a king of the jungle, he shall never lower his threshold into eating grass, no matter the economy of the jungle. So how ardent are you into your purpose and into your efforts of departing from identity crisis, that you are determined to do whatever it takes to find identity, to find purpose in your life? So, to better understand this, I will talk about something that everybody can relate to: an election. During an election, an electorate and a politician are people who come together for a common goal of governance, of getting good governance. An electorate and a politician is a canvas in which I'll depict the adverse effect of manipulation, of identity crisis, that's as a result, or that comes by through manipulation. In an electorate depressed state of hopelessness and helplessness, an entitled politician will easily lure him or her, will lure the electorate into voting for him by giving him a snippet bribe in the name of a handout. And that's why I said both clusters of people, the depressed and the entitled, will meet in that category of identity crisis, of effect of identity crisis, which is manipulation. Here there is a politician, and here is the electorate. The politician sent the vote from the electorate, but this politician, is not a leader. He's a politician. He or she is a politician. So, in order to get your vote at your depressed state, he or she will bribe you in the name of a handout for a vote. Just like you, this politician is a victim of identity crisis. The only difference, he is a victim of identity crisis through being stimulated to become an entitled person, and you are a victim of identity crisis through being depressed to your state of helplessness and hopelessness. So you are two people who are suffering from one disease with different outcomes. You know, you are being manipulated, and he, the politician, or she, the politician, is the manipulator. This immoral act of bribing for your vote is not only a clear depiction of moral rectitude or moral rectitude deficiency, it's also an indication that he or she is a politician but not a reader. That's a topic of another day, the difference between a politician and being a reader. And this is so because a reader indeed will not give out bribes to be voted in, because they are so much confident about their meritocracy and the leadership acumen that comes with it. In this case, both the manipulated and the manipulator are suffering from the effects of identity crisis, though in different facets. I just explained that one is out of being depressed and the other one is out of being stimulated negatively to become or to have a sense of entitlement. This is how humanity has continued to be eroded into this and to suffer the triple tragic advance of identity crisis. The seagull, and as we continue, unless we break this camp, unless we break this thing of settling in mediocrity or settling for the bare minimum of going through while we are going through identity crisis, this problem will continue. But I do believe that the single panacea of this world or global catastrophe is just finding purpose in life. If you find your purpose in life, if you know who you are, if you have identity, you shall not be manipulated. You shall not settle for the bare minimum. And to my understanding, I think through this topic of finding purpose, through this topic of pursuing your purpose, you shall stand a chance to know who you are, to pursue your purpose passionately, and to become a productive person, to be who can be celebrated in the present by the present generation and leave a legacy for posterity. Thank you so much, and we shall continue with more videos on this aspect of finding purpose. For now, bye, blessings, and shalom.